Well, hey there, Ada. Uh, it's me, Dan, again. Just figuring I'd post a response video to your comments on the religious divide, which is something that I have studied very much in depth myself. And I think from a few different angles that might give a little bit of insight to your question, which is how is it that people can condemn other people to hell based on a religious belief? Now, I'd like to go into a little bit of my own personal history here. I was raised in what can only be described as a Messianic Jewish cult. They believed that they were the direct descendants of the biblical Israelites, whom God had called back into the fold and said, "You are still all the chosen people," despite the fact that in the Bible there's a story about the Israelites being scattered to the winds and everything like that. They were convinced that the second coming of Christ was not just going to happen, but it was absolutely imminent within the next decade or so, which didn't happen, of course. And as a Messianic Jewish cult, when I say Messianic, I mean they believed that Jesus was Jesus, but they still held to the Old Testament beliefs. They had this idea that the Bible was literally true. I'm talking young Earth creationists, 6,000 year universal history. I am talking literal talking snake. I am talking biblical resurrection happened exactly the way it was said in the Bible, all that sort of stuff. Now, these were intelligent people, and they were good people as far as most of what they tried to do. Their intentions, anyway, were good. But I split from that religion fairly young, and it wasn't because of the disbelief in the religion itself. It was actually more of a social thing, in all honesty. Religion, especially hardcore religion, tends to be very cliquish. And when I moved from one place to another, even though I was still in the same religion, I was in a different church, and therefore I was very quickly ostracized. I didn't grow up with these people. I had no relationship like these people had with each other. So I decided not to go, much to my parents' dismay at the time. Now, that being said, I grew further and further apart from religion as time went on, but I kept on studying it. I kept on trying to find answers to really common questions that humanity usually has. And eventually, my life ended me up living in Japan. And in Japan, I met a guy named Pierre. Pierre was from Quebec. And he was living in Japan and had attained the rank of one of the highest ranking Buddhist monks in the city of Kyoto, Japan. Pierre had separated himself from the Buddhist religion several years earlier. Not separate from being a Buddhist monk, but more separate from the actual churches and temples, well, temples in Kyoto, because he found that the monks did not take the vows that they had taken seriously. They had taken a vow of poverty, for example, vows of celibacy, that sort of thing. And yet they had wives, and when they would finish their day of praying, they would hop into their Mercedes Benz and drive to their house, which, by the way, if you own a house in Japan, you're doing pretty damn well. So they would do these things, and Pierre found it to be very hypocritical, and he left. Now, Pierre made his living. He actually lived in a very tiny little rented apartment that he got. And when I say tiny, I mean like 3 tatami mats. If you've been to Japan, you would know the kind of dimensions that I'm talking about. If not, just kind of look it up. And Pierre talked to me at length about religion. while he was teaching me how to do table magic, I learned how to, make cards vanish and disappear and a whole bunch of nifty little tricks. And that was what I originally paid for, was to learn magic lessons. I found out, by the way, that later on he would donate all of the money that he made from the magic lessons that he taught me to charity. But Pierre said that in Buddhism, real Buddhism, as far as he could see, all of the statues, all of the pageantry, all of the rituals, everything that was done, when you would look at, let's say, he will use his example. His example was a Buddhist statue. He said, look at the Buddhist statue. You look at a Buddha, and what you're looking at is a piece of wood. It's a well-carved piece of wood, but it's a piece of wood. And when you look at it, what happens is that you will have a reaction to it. Whether that reaction be apathy, like I don't care, it's a Buddha, or that reaction be that is a demon idol, as many fundamentalist Christians would react, or whether that reaction is curiosity about the artwork that's involved, or curiosity about, as a dendrochronologist would look at it, turn that Buddha upside down, I want to count the rings in the wood. Whatever it is that your reaction is when you look on one of those Buddha statues, that reaction is what a Buddhist monk is interested in. He doesn't care about the statue. He gives no shits for the statue. He cares about your reaction. Your reaction tells you something about yourself. It tells you, I don't believe this shit. It tells you you're afraid of this. It tells you what your interests are. It tells you what your goals are. That's why there's so many different Buddha statues. That's why there's so many ways of looking at a Buddha statue, because all of those aspects will tell you about you. And what Pierre said was that when you take a statue like that, the Buddha, the Buddha essence is actually you. It's your reaction, what you feel when you look at it. And I thought that was a beautiful sentiment. I'm not Buddhist, but I can understand that what his point was. His point was that any religious symbolism, anything that goes on in a religion, tells you about the person who is experiencing it. It doesn't tell you about the religion. He says, Pierre told me that every religion, at its core, at the very deepest essence, once you strip away all the pageantry, you strip away the congregations, you strip away all of the stories, you strip away the pages, you strip away everything until it's all just naked, and you see a tiny core in any religion of something real. Now, imagine, for example, you take a religion which is commonly held as very violent, like Islam. When you strip away the stories, there's no violence left in Islam. And this is evidenced not by the fact that some people will take specific scriptures, specific stories, and decide that it's violent, but it's evidenced by the fact that the very vast majority, almost everybody who lives under Islam abhors violence, right? There's honestly more, percentage-wise, there are more Christian abortion clinic bombers than there are Islamic terrorists, if you're going to look at it by terms of ratio. So the core, that nugget of truth, that nugget of what's real in any religion, is this peace and love and nice life that every founder of every religion has always wanted for their people. That they go about it in such a way that it accumulates all this extra crap around it. That's what creates the divide. It's the extra crap. But if I can look at, like I did not just a week ago, if I can sit down with a Muslim, and he was actually he was a formerly very intimidating guy. And I told him, yes, I'm an atheist, and he didn't like that very much, but he allowed me to make my case. And my case was that what he calls God is what I call I don't know, right? I'm just being honest, and I understand that he believes what he says he believes. Um, but at our core, at both of our cores, there's this effort. We both want a nice life for our families. We both want progress. We both want so many different things that are so similar to each other that really the name Allah and my name for it, I don't know, amount to the same thing. So, in closing, I would say that the religious divide is caused by the outside views, the outside parts of religion, not by their core. So, whether or not I have my own religious views, my views are I am an atheist. I am as far on the atheist scale as you can possibly get without becoming as intellectually dishonest. So I'm right there with Richard Dawkins. But that doesn't mean that my core values, my core beliefs, that little tiny nugget in the middle, isn't the same as the most extreme Muslim, the most extreme Islamist Muslim, or the most extreme Westboro Baptist Church member. We both want what's right for society, but I think we both, all of us, have a filter that wants to separate us, that wants to say, my group, his group, your group, I'm better than you. If we can drop that, if we can say, hey, what makes us the same, we'll have a lot better luck. And what makes us the same is that core. See you around.